Welcome to Hong Kong Brief. The content of the briefing includes Greater Bay Area property market's future seen powered by economic synergies. Regions more connected than ever as China's Greater Bay Area plan turns 5. China stocks set to rally as PBOC holds, Sunday Asia briefing. China leaves key rate steady as yuan limits maneuvering room. The Hong Kong of 20 years ago is gone. It's time to accept it. Greater Bay Area property market's future seen powered by economic synergies. South China Morning Post. Property markets in China's Greater Bay Area are set to see an uptick in 2024 as businesses and communities find synergies within the 11-city economic powerhouse. Enhanced cross-border payment measures, set to launch on February 26, will enable Macau and Hong Kong buyers to purchase property in the Bay Area without the existing daily remittance cap of 80,000 yuan, $11,120. The measures are expected to facilitate economic growth and further integration within the Bay Area, and have already encouraged Beijing to deepen ties with the region. Regions more connected than ever as China's Greater Bay Area plan turns 5. South China Morning Post. The Greater Bay Area, a long-term plan to integrate Hong Kong, Macau, and the populous south of Guangdong province into an economic hub, is becoming increasingly connected. The high-speed rail network has made travel between cities such as Guangzhou, Shenzhen, and Hong Kong much easier and quicker. The Greater Bay Area has been positioned as a world-class city cluster, expected to rival Tokyo, New York, and San Francisco. In 2023, the GDP of the Greater Bay Area, excluding Hong Kong and Macau, rose by 4.8% YoY to 11.02 trillion Chinese yuan, $1.5 trillion. Guangdong has announced that it will contribute over 670 billion Chinese yuan to infrastructure construction in the area, including 149.1 billion Chinese yuan for the intercity railway network, which is set to total 4,700 kilometers by 2025. China's 14th five-year plan has set a target for the total length of Guangdong's railway network to exceed 5,000 kilometers, with an investment of more than 1.6 trillion Chinese yuan. The high-speed rail network has brought convenience to many small and medium-sized enterprises, providing more options for Hong Kong residents to reach different parts of Guangdong and other provinces. China stocks set to rally as PBOC holds, Sunday Asia briefing. Bloomberg. China's markets are set to resume trading after the Lunar New Year holiday. The People's Bank of China has held off on lowering its one-year rate, providing support to the yuan. Chinese stocks are expected to perform well, driven by increased spending during the holiday and gains in Hong Kong-listed China shares. Investors will be watching manufacturing activity in Asia and Europe to gauge whether a recovery in factory output is underway. HSBC and Standard Chartered may address the risks associated with their China property operations, while Singapore Airlines results are expected to highlight the post-COVID travel boom. China's new C919 passenger jet could make its first overseas appearance at the Singapore Air Show. Former Thai Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra has been released from detention. Concerns about credit risk are being raised in the U.S. commercial real estate and Chinese property markets. China leaves key rate steady as yuan limits maneuvering room. Bloomberg. China's central bank, the People's Bank of China, PBOC, has kept its key interest rate steady in an effort to stabilize the yuan and assess the impact of recent support measures for the economy and markets. The PBOC kept the rate on its one-year policy loans unchanged at 2.5%, in line with expectations. China's economy is struggling under the weight of a property crisis, weak confidence, and deflation pressures. The BOC's reluctance to aggressively ease monetary policy highlights the mismatch with market hopes for stimulus. The Hong Kong of 20 years ago is gone. It's time to accept it. SCMP opinion. the Hong Kong government needs to take into account the fundamental changes occurring in the city when creating its budget for 2024-25. These changes include shifts in population structure, attitudes towards health and sustainability, and increased competition from Shenzhen. As retail rents drop, there is an opportunity for entrepreneurs to make use of underused retail space for new activities. Furthermore, changes in population structure mean that there is a growing number of active, health-conscious individuals with time and money to spend. The government should invest in improving public areas and creating spaces that cater to these changing needs and desires. China stocks primed for bullish reopen after upbeat data. Bloomberg. Chinese stocks are set to rise strongly when trading resumes following the Lunar New Year break. Buoyant travel and tourism data is expected to bring a much-needed relief to one of the world's worst-performing major markets. Spending patterns during the holiday suggest consumption has increased even as the broader economy struggles with deflation and a property crisis. A big question, however, remains on the sustainability of any rebound in the face of deeper economic woes. David Cameron to visit Falkland Islands. The Independent. UK Prime Minister David Cameron has stated that the sovereignty of the Falkland Islands is not up for discussion as he prepares to visit the islands in a show of support for its population. The new Argentinian president, Javier Milei, pledged during his recent election campaign that he would gain sovereignty over the islands. However, Downing Street insists that the issue of sovereignty is settled. A referendum in 2013 saw islanders overwhelmingly vote to remain a self-governing UK overseas territory. Greater Bay Area cities should play to their strengths for the best results. SCMP opinion. The Greater Bay Area Initiative, which aims to create a global economic powerhouse in southern China, is becoming a reality as cross-border banking, investment, work, travel, and entertainment are now part of everyday life in the region. While there have been promising signs of development, the prolonged period of COVID disruptions and political crisis pose challenges. Hong Kong has seen positive gains, with an increase in wealth management assets and more Hong Kong residents living on the mainland. However, there is still room for improvement in terms of coordination and planning to drive further development in the region. Other cities within the Greater Bay Area should play to their strengths to create synergy and complement one another. Global Factory Checkup is about to reveal extent of nascent recovery. Yahoo! Manufacturing will get a temperature check from closely watched measures of activity for Europe and Asia, an opportunity to gauge whether a nascent recovery in factory output is gaining traction. A recent uptick in a global index of manufacturing, to the highest level since mid-2022, has spurred expectations the sector has reached a turning point after a broad consumer shift away from purchases of goods in favor of services. We believe that manufacturing activity has troughed and should improve on the back of resilient global growth and the arrival of central bank rate cuts in 2024, Goldman Sachs Group Incorporated economists led by Jan Hatzius wrote in a note. Yearly flu jabs may one day be in the past. SCMP opinion. Researchers at the Hong Kong Jockey Club Global Health Institute have developed 2 nasal spray vaccines, which provide protection against multiple subtypes of influenza A and last much longer than current vaccines. The vaccines stimulate the immune system in the respiratory tract, helping to prevent infections, and could provide protection for at least a few years. Current flu vaccines are administered annually due to the changing flu strains. The researchers hope the new vaccines can enter clinical trials within 5 years. Systemic risk concerns grow among money managers as real estate woes cause turmoil. Yahoo! Fears of a systemic credit event are growing among fund managers as alarms sound in property markets around the world. About 1 in 6 of those polled consider such a crunch to be the biggest tail risk facing markets, compared to about 1 in 11 in December, according to Bank of America Corporation's latest Global Fund Manager Survey. The deepening disquiet in U.S. commercial real estate and Chinese property markets means it's now the third biggest worry for respondents, lagging higher inflation and geopolitics. Hopes that the Federal Reserve would cut interest rates and alleviate some of the pressure on real estate were dented by stronger than expected inflation numbers this week. Traders are now wagering on less than 90 basis points of cuts this year, almost half of what was expected in January. Meanwhile, more than $900 billion of debt on U.S. commercial and multifamily real estate will require refinancing or property sales this year, a 40% jump from an earlier estimate, after banks extended loans among other factors, and as building values fall. Analysis: 5 things new coach Deshaun Foster must do to win at UCLA. Yahoo! It's time for Deshaun Foster to get to work. The passion the former UCLA star running back unveiled in his introduction as the Bruins coach is admirable but goes only so far. While it may put butts in seats at the Rose Bowl in 2024, it won't keep them there unless the Bruins start winning in a big way. In Munich, China defends ties with Russia, warns West on Taiwan red line. South China Morning Post. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi has defended Beijing's ties with Moscow and warned the West not to cross red lines on Taiwan during a speech at the Munich Security Conference. Wang called China a responsible major country that would be a force for stability in a changing world. He rejected a request for China to rein in Russia over its invasion of Ukraine, saying there were not ripe conditions in place for parties to go back to the negotiating table. Wang also dismissed allegations of forced labor in Xinjiang, inviting attendees to visit the region to see the claims were false. Hong Kong authorities urged to axe all property cooling measures to boost market. South China Morning Post. Hong Kong's property market is set to receive a boost as political parties and economists call on authorities to scrap property cooling measures. The move is not expected to cause home prices to surge. 4 of the city's major political parties, including the Democratic Alliance for the Betterment and Progress of Hong Kong, have urged Financial Secretary Paul Chan-Imopa to consider the changes ahead of his budget announcement on February 28. Hong Kong and Inter Miami were playing very different games. SCMP opinion. The recent backlash from fans and organizers following Lionel Messi's non-appearance in a highly anticipated match in Hong Kong has raised questions about the priorities of different parties involved in organizing such events. While the city saw the match as an opportunity to showcase itself and lay a platform for future events, Inter Miami saw it as just another preseason game. Organizers of such events need to have the relevant expertise and experience and should not promise more than they can deliver. Furthermore, disappointed fans should be given a better experience. Ladies and gentlemen, it's your favorite Sixth Doctor here, bringing you the latest news from the sixth dimension. Let's dive right into it. In the Greater Bay Area, property markets are expected to see an uptick in 2024 as businesses and communities find synergies within the economic powerhouse. With enhanced cross-border payment measures and deepening ties with Beijing, the region is poised for growth. The Greater Bay Area Plan, which integrates Hong Kong, Macau, and Guangdong Province, is becoming increasingly connected. The high-speed rail network has made travel between cities easier and quicker, positioning the region as a world-class city cluster. Investment in infrastructure, including railways, is set to further boost development. China's markets are set to resume trading after the Lunar New Year holiday, with stocks expected to rally. Increased spending during the holiday and gains in Hong Kong-listed China shares will drive the market. Attention will also be on manufacturing activity in Asia and Europe to gauge the recovery in factory output. China's central bank has kept its key interest rate steady to stabilize the yuan and assess the impact of recent support measures. The economy is facing challenges from a property crisis, weak confidence, and deflation pressures. The central bank's cautious approach highlights the mismatch with market hopes for stimulus. The Hong Kong government needs to consider the fundamental changes occurring in the city when creating its budget. Shifts in population structure, attitudes towards health and sustainability, and increased competition from Shenzhen should be taken into account. retail rents dropping present an opportunity for entrepreneurs, and investment in public areas can cater to changing needs. Chinese stocks are expected to rise strongly after the Lunar New Year break, driven by buoyant travel and tourism data. Consumption has increased despite economic challenges, but the sustainability of any rebound remains uncertain. In international news, UK Prime Minister David Cameron has stated that the sovereignty of the Falkland Islands is not up for discussion as he prepares to visit the islands. The issue of sovereignty was settled in a 2013 referendum, with islanders voting to remain a self-governing UK overseas territory. The Greater Bay Area Initiative is becoming a reality, with cross-border activities now part of everyday life. While there have been promising signs of development, the COVID disruptions and political crisis pose challenges. Coordination and planning are needed to drive further development in the region. Manufacturing activity in Europe and Asia will be closely watched to gauge the recovery in factory output. A recent uptick in manufacturing activity has spurred expectations of a turning point. Resilient global growth and central bank rate cuts are expected to boost manufacturing. Researchers in Hong Kong have developed nasal spray vaccines that provide long-lasting protection against multiple subtypes of influenza A. These vaccines could enter clinical trials within 5 years and eliminate the need for yearly flu jabs. Fears of a systemic credit event are growing among fund managers as alarms sound in property markets around the world. Concerns about U.S. commercial real estate and Chinese property markets are rising, lagging behind higher inflation and geopolitics. In sports news, Deshaun Foster, the new coach of UCLA, needs to start winning to keep fans engaged. While passion is admirable, it won't keep fans in the seats if the team doesn't perform. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi defended Beijing's ties with Moscow and warned the West not to cross red lines on Taiwan during a speech at the Munich Security Conference. He invited attendees to visit Xinjiang to see that allegations of forced labor are false. Hong Kong's property market is set to receive a boost as political parties and economists call for the scrapping of cooling measures. This move is not expected to cause a surge in home prices. Lastly, the recent backlash over Lionel Messi's non-appearance in a match in Hong Kong raises questions about the priorities of organizers. Events should be well planned and deliver on their promises to give fans a better experience. And that's a wrap for today's news. Now, I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on the future of the Greater Bay Area property market? Do you think the Hong Kong government should scrap cooling measures? Let's discuss. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.